Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. It took 1,200 days to build the Titanic, a massive ship. On April 10, 1912, it was all set for its first journey. The Titanic was the biggest and most expensive ship globally, but it sank in just 2 hours. The weather was calm, and there was no sign of a storm. About 1,500 people were already on the ship, and many more were watching as it started its first trip. What people didn't know, including the crew, was that the Titanic had 6 construction mistakes. These errors turned out to be the cause of the ship's worst disaster. Friends will find out about 6 mistakes made by the Titanic, which was the most expensive, luxurious, and powerful ship of its time. Captain Edward Smith, with many years of experience, didn't notice these mistakes despite his 40 years of being a captain. The company operating the Titanic, White Star Line, who had experience with 107 ships, also missed these mistakes. Even the company that built the Titanic, Holland & Wools, working on more than 5 ships just before the Titanic and taking about 3 years with 2,000 workers, didn't catch these mistakes until the ship was finished. The ship was all set to go, but they still had to do some testing. After the workers worked really hard, the ship was ready. It was fully prepared, but they still needed to test it. Once it passed the test, they advertised it in newspapers worldwide with the headline, "Unsinkable Titanic Created." The ship's first journey was scheduled to begin from Southampton, England, on April 10, 1912, to New York City in the United States. Traveling in the Titanic's economy section cost $30, while first-class tickets were $150. Finally, the day arrived when the Titanic was about to start its first-ever voyage. Because of this marketing, people booked tickets one by one, and finally the day came for the Titanic's first journey. The Titanic's problems started with the captain. He had to reach New York by April 17th, just a few days away. So, from the beginning, the captain made the ship go very fast. That was the whole plan for the Titanic. The first mistake Captain Smith made was rushing to reach New York quickly, because the owners told him to. It was the Titanic's first trip, and if it didn't reach New York on time, the Titanic would have a bad reputation worldwide. Around the globe, any kind of machinery, ship, or vehicle. There are several operating procedures in which the speed limit is also a part of these procedures, and that part was violated at the beginning of the Titanic's voyage. Late at sea, the ship left the port of Southampton so far that nothing but sea could be seen in the distance. The Titanic had been navigating the vast expanse of the ocean for 3 days, with only brief halts in France and the islands. Over the past 72 hours, it had been steadily progressing towards New York. It was the evening of April 14th, 1912. A profound stillness enveloped the sea, accompanied by a dense fog, diminishing the vessel's buoyancy. The Titanic had received warnings about icebergs adrift in the sea. Experts estimate that this cautionary advice has been relayed at least 6 times. However, because of the negligence of wireless operators, they failed the most important alerts, which were probably normal for them. But this was the second mistake of Titanic, as Titanic was the first luxury ship of its time, and many famous people were also in it. Therefore, most of Titanic's crew was busy serving first-class passengers. If these warnings were heeded, further, so the entire chest would be separate. The third mistake was made too quickly and overlooked an important warning. Although the Titanic was now boldly approaching the limits of the iceberg, it was still possible to avoid disaster. This was because, although the ship's guards were alert and ready to report any incident from a distance, they lacked the necessary equipment to do so. They had no binoculars. The guards were aware of the situation, but did not pay attention to the iceberg. Watchmen were unable to observe the iceberg up close, since they were without binoculars, which proved to be the third error made by the Titanic. There was a football field-sized ice bug directly in front of him, but it was too late because the icework was so close. Mistake number 4. Because many ships in the Atlantic Ocean often come across icebergs, which big ships can usually handle easily, Captain Smith might have thought the same. He was told to get closer, and the Titanic tried hard to avoid the iceberg, but the distance was too short to do anything useful. The iceberg hit the middle of the Titanic, and although there was hope that the ship's hull was okay, or the iceberg would break on its own, Padding's fourth mistake messed things up. Experts think the rivets on the Titanic were not strong steel but weak cast iron. Where the iceberg hit, the vents opened because of the pressure. Captain Smith feared actually happened. The Titanic hit a huge iceberg, like a football field-sized one. Water started filling up the ship. Joseph Burroughs, the ship owner, tried to help. hoping the Titanic could survive. The ship was designed to stay afloat even if 3 levels got filled with water. But sadly, it had 3 levels underwater. After some time, the water reached the 4th level, and the situation went out of control. The Titanic was slowly sinking into the sea, and now the focus was not on the ship, but on saving the passengers. Captain Smith radioed to save lives. An emergency alert went out, and the plan was to transfer passengers to lifeboats until help arrived. But here is where the 5th mistake appeared. Only 20 lifeboats were available for 1,500 passengers, which was not enough. Yes, the ship had space for 32 lifeboards. But only 20 lifeboats were kept due to. Mistake number 6 happened on the Titanic when there was a lot of excitement, and everyone wanted to get on the lifeboats. The first emergency boat was launched at 12:45, but another mistake was made. They sent the boats into the sea without filling them up completely. They let the rich people in first, and many first-class passengers got on, leaving others behind. At 2:18, all the lights on the Titanic went out because of a short circuit. Right after that, the ship broke into 2 pieces and sank into the ocean. This whole process took 2 hours and 40 minutes. And sadly, 1,500 people drowned in the cold water of the Atlantic Ocean. The water temperature was -2 degrees Celsius, so it was impossible for anyone to survive for more than 30 minutes in such cold water. Some people got on the ship without tickets. Most of the survivors were children and women. Captain Smith, who was trying to save people's lives, was the last person to jump from the sinking ship. Don't forget to subscribe for more historical deep dives. See you in the next video.